Welcome, ladies and gentlemen of the old world. I hope you're all doing well. And today, my friends, we're back with the High Elf vs. Vampire Count Showdown. It's going to be Hadries with Imric versus Kark with Vlad von Karstein. Pretty cool. Very different. We're very used to seeing Manfred with Winds of Death Spam and Double Necromancer for the infinite Winds of Magic, but there's a little bit of something to be had with Vlad, of course. He's very tanky with the von Karstein ring, and just kind of the fact that he's a foot character, he can maybe endure some of the gooning and hold on to the objectives. And I would imagine he probably still has a little Winds of Death action. Let's see. So no, actually just Raised Dead and Invocation. I feel like we're time traveling back to Warhammer 2 with this build. Vlad, although wasn't super popular, but the double White King kind of is what really gives me the throwbacks. These Scab Scrays are pretty good. They have terrible armor piercing, but if you use the effects on like Spearmen who have low armor, not Silver and Guard, but basic Spearmen and or Archers, they can actually do some okay damage. But anyways, for Kark's build, it's going to be Graveguard spam, like all day, every day. And Graveguard are really tough to kill, incredibly cost-effective infantry. They did get magic damage, of course, in one of the more recent updates. And yeah, they just do work. Super, super tough to kill for the forces of the Elves. Of course, you have White Lions and like Swordmasters, but typically Vampire Counts do very well in melee simply because of like Corpse Guards and all the characters they have. Oh my god, is that Horse Rick? It is, it's Horse Rick. He's got the Vuvuzela. Looks like he's going to be hunting some characters. And for Hadries in his force, it is going to be a battle line of Silver and Guard and just a metric ton of DACA. So it's going to be Archers, including the Talons of Torquilada somewhere, the ROR Archers that do imbue fire damage. No Lothern Sea Guard, which is very, very meta here. Just going to be going for a wider Archer line and Mage of Life with Dwellers in the back. Now up in the high ground, Imric going to be running away from your boy Vlad. Certainly not a duel he wants to take. Vlad, there was a time when Vlad didn't have good armor piercing, but he did get buffed at the end of Warhammer 2, which gave him quite a bit of AP, and he started doing some work for sure. Now, what are the Archers going to focus? Are they going to methodically pick off the Corpse Guards? Wouldn't necessarily be a bad idea, but it looks like they're going to be going after the Grave Guard here. Now, of course, Silver Shields and a lot of armor, but Volume of Fire is most certainly Volume of Fire. As they continue to pour in there, we are going to be seeing some Swordmasters of Hoth come out and a Dwellers below. So that was a really good play there, what Hadries did. Essentially, he sent Imric in, baited the aggro on the Graveguard, forced them to kind of stop because they're going to turn and fight Imric, and now the Dwellers below is going to be nailing them. That's actually a really, really high-level play there. Now, this is what I'm talking about with Scab Scrape, that item on the White Kings, which kind of gives you a little bit of a option compared to just using the Forbidden Rods all day, is that it did a lot of damage. I mean, one basic cast, which has multiple charges, was able to kind of block up those Archers. And now Reavers, recently cost reduced, going to be jumping in the front, trying to block up these units, and of course the Elves are going to be on the defense. So with the back Graveguard being picked apart a little bit, Swordmasters of Hoth easily going to take him to town after the Dweller's Blow was able to do its job. And Vlad doesn't have access to Winds of Death, so there's not like some like OP spell that's going to be able to kind of one-shot those Swordmasters. You're going to have to deal with them the old-fashioned way. Some of the Archers push back as far as objectives. Looks like it's just heavy trading. Side objective is going to be taken by the Elves. Most likely middle is going to be taken here by the Vampire Counts as the Graveguard continue to try and get through the Reavers. But even the basic like High Elf Skirmish Cavalry, or just, light cav, I should say, are very, very tough to deal with. Talons of Torquilada, imbuing fire weakness, very, very cool. Going to continue shooting into these vampiric units, and they're certainly weak to fire now, as the Talons are going to be giving themselves 22% more damage. Not too many other Archers here do fire damage. I believe Imric, even on his, no, I guess he doesn't. For some reason, I thought he did with his, Lance. No, it's that he still has fire resist. That's what it is. So up on the high ground, looks like a little skirmish for the objective. Both players do have the objective in mind. It's going to be Dire Wolves facing off against Reavers. I'm probably thinking the Vampire Counts will, a lot of chaff units. I was going to actually expect the Dire Pack to come in because they actually trade very well there. Back in the epicenter of combat, a very nasty pit fight as the Swordmasters of Hoth continue to just cut through whatever they really engage with. Only 146 value at this point, but they still have a lot more to give as the Archer lines continue to tear through these Graveguard and zombies. Very, very tough. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you got to push through. Value is going to be favoring the Elves a little bit, which makes sense. It seems like they've gotten a little bit more damage. Vampire Counts, objectives are more or less even. One of them is being contested up on the high ground here. Elves control 3. Number 2 is controlled by the forces of the Vampire Counts. Count Chocula over there, and the Illyrian Reavers are going to be falling back, and this objective probably will be yielded to the Vampire Counts. So this is probably going to force Hadries into a situation where he just has to value trade and try and wrestle the objectives the old-fashioned way. Oh my god, the crossfire of this game. So some of you guys might be wondering, how are these Archers shooting when they're in melee? Well, what you can do, if your Archers or any sort of a missile unit is tied up in melee, you can put them in guard mode and give them ranged firing orders, and essentially you have to kind of keep spamming it. It's a little bit clunky, but the units within that Archer unit will try and fire. The ones that are able to will shoot. It's kind of a cool thing here, but Reavers on the side, one of the big MVPs for the Elves, probably the most popular unit right now, continuing to hold back the tide of the Vampires. Here we do get some Dire Wolves, though, on top of the Archers with the dreaded light armor. Now, you might be wondering, why is there light armor? Well, the reason why is just so you can get more Archers. It's not that light armor is actually good or anything. I think it's like 10 extra armor, but I guess it's not like insignificant against Dire Wolves, but yeah, it's really not that great. They're a pretty haggard unit for sure. Imric, though, not really finding a home. He's at 179 value. Vlad has been a little bit more productive with 203, wearing through some of these elite units. Swordmasters of Hoth kind of caught up in a big messy fight. They are battling the corpse guard as well as some skeletons here, so should be pretty happy to get those down. I would imagine your boy Imric maybe is going to come around and try and take down the corpse carts, but Vlad as well as the double White Kings, I know Swordmasters are quite elite, and it looks like they've actually done some decent damage against the White Kings as well as Vlad. But, you know, these are three really powerful combat characters with bonus versus infantry and armor piercing, so those Swordmasters are going to be losing that fight for sure. Over on the side, Hadri is continuing to wrestle for the point, and some of the Reavers do pull back. Obviously, a lot of Skeleton Spears and Zombies coming up. It looks like these Storm Riders are coming in. The ROR, Lothern Sea Guard, yes, they've made it. They're going to be unleashing their mobile salvos into the zombies, but yeah, Skeleton Spearmen do have bronze shields, so you're probably going to need some actual infantry over here, but it does maintain the objective, and these bad boys do have 53 melee defense, so if the zombies and haggard units want to try and wrestle it from, Hadri should be able to hold on to that point. Now for Kark in the backfield, it is going to be a legion of undead, zombies and skeleton warriors. Some more Graveguard are being resummoned. As far as the initial Graveguard surge goes, it looks like there is some here. We have 23 Graveguard. I don't think there's that many left though. It's mostly skeleton warriors and chaff. It looked like the Elvish archers were able to methodically pick those guys apart, but the value trading is really close, which is not good for the Elves. It's very stressful. I mean, they have access to their own healing. They're playing the objective game pretty well. Obviously, Vampire Count chaff units don't have good capture weight, as it should be, though. It was really broken when they did. So the Reavers here, as well as Imric, are going to be able to maybe wrestle this middle point, which would be a pretty big mistake for sure. You can see the capture weight is 1.7. These chaff units, skeletons, and zombies have 2 capture weight for reference. On the other side, Silver and Guard going to take like 10 years to get rid of, and it looks like the main fight in the middle has kind of favored the Vampire Counts a little bit, like the dead center, but the Elves, of course, have been able to kind of rally some units, and they're getting good picks on the flanks, right? So it's really going back and forth. Excellent Dwellers going down on a Graveguard unit nonetheless, and that was an overcasted Dwellers, which does mean it's going to have a slowing effect, therefore keeping them in the range effect for as long as possible. Silver and Guard still buzzsawing through these skeletons. Buzzsawing is probably not the correct word, but slowly, methodically poking them with their spears. Up on the high ground, looks like Vampire is really making a big effort to get this objective, and they do have the capture weight, just sheer numbers. Reavers out here on this outside, and it looks like some Reavers here maybe could engage against these zombies. Imric could be moving up to the high ground, but Imric's really struggling to find a home this game. Only 179 value. Vlad, of course, is a caster as well, so he doesn't necessarily need to generate his value. You know, in pure combat, he's going to be healing, providing other things to the battlefield. Direwolves looking for some loose archers, just like these ones here in the middle. And Silver and Guard are going to be very tough to remove, but characters like White Kings are very, very capable of doing that. But it looks like the White Kings are going to be going after the Mage here, I should say White King. I think it's only one. It is on the hunt, and that Mage of Life is going to be forced to run. Not a terribly good combatant. I think she's a little bit faster. 35 against 33, yeah. So that guy's wearing like heavy plate, so he's going to be a little bit slower. But archers, even in their very tattered state, doing an excellent job picking off the corpse guards here. In the back, Reavers and Fireborn coming in. So the ROR Dragon Princes have made it into the battlefield. And they're able to isolate a corpse guard here, getting some really good damage. And of course, yeah, their fire damage is pertinent here because the corpse guard at this point is weak to fire. So big damage coming in. Reavers are trying to occupy your boy Vlad, and it looks like the middle objective is going to be flipping to the Elves here. The high ground objective going very decisively to the Vampire Counts. Definitely a nightmare scenario. Imagine being one of these Lothern Sea Guard. That is a lot of elite units you have to, not elite units, crappy units you have to fight. Skeleton Spears, of course, really, really low melee attack on most of these units. So the Storm Riders might hold for a while. I mean, they do have 53 melee defense, but eventually they'll probably be dragged down. Unless they get like big Dwellers up here. Dwellers, would it even be worth it though? I guess if you got 2 Skeleton Spears, it might end up being worth it. So the High Elves at this point do have a double cap, but the side point is looking to be in a little bit of danger. Graveguard, of course, have the full 5 capture weight, and they are going to be able to wrestle that one. Good play here from Kark, getting his Direwolves to finally hunt down all of these loose archers. And the Dragon Princes are still on the battlefield. Looks like they're going to be chewing through some Skeleton Warriors, or attempting to. Vlad moving over with his awesome armor piercing, and he does hit pretty hard. Each of his attacks probably will be able to kill one of these models here, as he does get the flying karate chop, and it looks like he didn't actually kill the model there. So Master Begalma is down. There he goes, launching that cavalry man off his horse here. As the Fireborn do pull back, Master Begalma is down, so it's going to be putting their melee attack down to 13, really mitigating their chance to hit anything. But that's what's good about cav units. They can just run away when they're debuffed. And that's why direct damage spells are often perceived to be much stronger than buffs and debuffs, is because there's too much counterplay to a debuff spell. Typically, you can just run away, wait for its effects to wear off, unless it's like an infantry unit, but usually they're used on like SEMs and cavalry and things like that. So it's a little bit easier to mitigate. So big shot cav charge coming in. Going to be trying to push these skeletons off the middle point. And what's cool about the Fireborn is, yes, even though they are an anti-large cav unit, they're still basically just Dragon Princes as well, so they're not going to be a bad shot cav unit, but you don't want to sit and go fisticuffs with Vlad. Granted, he did just blow himself up with that overcast, so you can call that a little bit of a win. Swordmasters of Hoth, a great weapon unit. Did not mean to say Grave Guard. Terrible pun there. But the Swordmasters of Hoth should be able to cut through these Grave Guard, like super hardcore. If they fought at full health, the Swordmasters would probably go down to like maybe like 75%, 80%. It would be a very one-sided trade. Swordmasters are definitely one of the more cost-effective great weapon units in the game. They just have insane stats. The issue with them being is that they just get nuked by magic, right? And that's really the issue with a lot of elite units in general, is like things like Dwellers Below just being so meta. Pit of Shades is a little bit, I would say, easier to dodge and not quite as devastating. Dwellers is just absolutely backbreaking, but it looks like the Elves are going to be able to hold on to the side point. Swordmasters of Hoth generating value, basically fighting what they're designed to do. This is like your, fantasy. If you're a, competitive player, essentially getting your units to fight exactly what they should be fighting, and that's, is a sign of a good opponent. Somebody who doesn't let that happen for sure. Not to say Kark is doing badly. He's a very, very strong player, but in this situation, the Vampires are a little bit slower here, so those guys are going to be locked down. So Illyrian Reavers going after Ye Old Graveguard, and the Graveguard should be able to push them back eventually, but still a good piece. Keeping a high capture weight unit from getting to the objective with good cycle charging is a very, very strong tactic. And over here, Swordmasters might actually be able to kill this White King. And Imric is a good hunter character. He's got really good stats, as do most of the Elven units. 68, 72, 420. And he's going to go after the White King. White King could get beaten up and or taken out here, because he's going to be taking a lot of damage from the Swordmasters. And it looks like Imric's going to be lancing him even further into the center mass of all these Swordmasters here. So he's going to be taking a little bit of a pain train. Archers are back. Lothern Seaguard, probably one of the best units on the roster. I think that Reavers and Lothern Seaguard are probably the most cost-effective pieces, but that's because of the cost reductions they recently got. Like, they have other good units as well, like Silverhelm. Swordmasters are situationally good. I would call them a good unit. They're very, very good at what they do, but again, more niche because of the current, nature of the meta. Like, most Vampire Counts players would have Manfred plus double, Necromancer, and there would just be like a million Winds of Death, which is something I think they don't need to nerf Winds of Death, but they need to nerf infinite Winds of Magic. It's definitely very, very unfair here, but not in this case. Kark brought a very, very fair build here, so. Viking getting karate chopped. Imric, the Lord of Dragons, going to be getting upwards of, no, he's only 300. I was looking at the Swordmaster, I was very proud of him for a second, but no, these guys going to be getting 1,000 value, and certainly a lot more to give. Oh man, that is so prime time for the Swordmasters, guys. Just another unit of Graveguard for them to farm. Pretty crazy, but Black Knight's coming out, looking to fight the Fireborn. Fireborn might, with a little bit of support, maybe can hold their own here. We do see the Lord of Dragons going down. Imric coming to help out his boys. But they are surrounded by skeletons. Skeletons, even if it's just one damage at a time, will help to drag them down. And the Black Knights are the charge variant. And they also do magic damage, which is pretty crazy. They didn't used to. So the magic damage is going to be surpassing the physical resist of the Dragon Princes. So that's essentially like 20% extra damage compared to normal units. But they still put up a good fight and are able to get over 1,000 value. Now, up on the high ground, it looks like Kark has a decent little hold with some zombies. Not that some Reavers couldn't come over and pressure that objective. In the middle, Vlad von Karstein's trying to take this out. The value trading is very close, 12.8 to 11.5. So pretty much a razor close game. Obviously, many of the Vampire Counts units just heal on their own, straight up. And on top of that, oh no, Dwellers Below. That's brutal. That's going to be hitting everything. Zombies, skeletons, pretty much the whole backbone of this Vampire Count army here. And that was a masterful cast. It does do friendly fire damage if you cast it on your own units. But the Reavers and the Swordmasters and all those guys are going to be in very, very good shape. And that was a brutal one. Now Vlad's going to be standing alone, listening to some... That was Godsmack, right? Who does the song, Stand Alone? That was Godsmack. I always get them and Disturbed confused, but I don't know. I guess they just kind of sounded similar. But Skeleton Spears, zombies going down, Elves managing to hold on to the point, but the Black Knights are coming in and a lot more chaff. The Undead are relentless. Despite that very, very good Dwellers, there is going to be a lot more pressure coming in. And will the Elves be able to hold the side point? Dire Wolves coming in for this round, and they do a bit of damage. You get them around the back, charge into the spears and the Swordmasters, and you're going to be having a pretty good time as Imric tries to hunt down the characters. He did take out one White King. Looks like he's going to be going after the other one right now. Still only 400 value, so not doing a whole lot of damage this game. I was actually really expecting Dragon Imric when I saw the loading screen. I was like, oh yeah, breath attacks, Graveguard. I mean, Dragon Imric would absolutely dumpster Vlad in a duel, for sure. I mean, Vlad would tank and survive for a while, but it would not be a good trade for him. So White King still getting a little bit beaten down. Imric up over 500 value here. Swordmasters of Hoth trading exceptionally well. 1,500 value on these guys. That is so incredibly good. Kark's going to be coming around, looking to break the leadership of this formation, getting after some of the archers, which will take some pressure off his corpse cart and those type of units. So very, very good Hound Micro from Kark this game. That is for sure. In the middle objective, guys, maybe going to be flipping here. Your boy Vlad doing a lot of work, but it looks like the Elves just barely holding on to it. You can see objective 2, the capture weight actually favors the Elves by 0.12, 0.08 right now. That is such a tight margin. It's basically just coming down to models killed, but some of the zombies and skeletons do move off the objective, so this is a little bit of a mistake here. This might actually allow the Elves to hold on to the point, because the Swordmasters will then start to kill off more units, and that will give them the capture weight advantage. I really love this mod, how we have all this like data here. But the high ground Vampire Count's able to hold on to this one. Black Knights and some zombies should be able to fight off these Illyrian Reavers, especially with the support of Direwolves. But the middle point, Elves are holding on. We got more Spearmen coming in, and these are no mere Spearmen. These are the Silverin Guard, the most dreaded of all Spearmen in the realm. It's going to take Vlad like 15 minutes to take those guys down. And Hadri's is currently at 1307. It looks like Kark is at 765, but looks like your boy Emmerich's in a little bit of danger, guys. So a game that looks like it was kind of over when we were just looking at the middle is suddenly very, very precarious here. As the Dreadlord Kark is going to be coming in. He does wrestle the middle objective here, or the side objective, and Emmerich is going to be getting chased. He's probably going to break here. Is he going to get away? Hadri's just rapidly microing this guy, trying to click, but I would imagine the Direwolves can move past him, get a little bit of a surround, and maybe break him. I mean, he only has, you know, just over 1,000 HP, so not that much. So it looks like this could be an Elvish Helm's Deep. Granted, the Reaver's coming in, trying to ninja the objective. I don't think that's going to work, though. If Kark is paying attention, he'll be able to get his Black Knights as well as his Direwolves over here and just hunt down these Reavers and push them off the point. I think the Elves just focus on Helm's Deeping in the middle. They'll win on even on just one objective right now. The Elves will win in about 2 minutes. That's a long hold, but the fact that Emmerich lived is pretty big, because if Emmerich had been killed or broken, the entire Elven army would be suffering a leadership penalty, and they have really crazy base leadership in general, but I mean, that would make a difference in a very, very close situation. So yeah, Elves are just going to be going for the Helm's Deep, ladies and gentlemen. On the side, we get the Talons of Tor Kaleda coming in. Reavers are clearing off this point, and the Talons might be able to put enough damage into these units to get them off. Granted, the White King is going to be a very good anchor. The White King himself does have 3 capture weight, 1,500 value on these White Kings, just showing that you don't have to just use, you know, Manfred and double Necromancer. Certainly, there's other viable units on the old Vampire Count roster, as Emmerich is caught by the Master of Beguilement, and Vlad is kind of similar to like Sigvald and you know, in a more haggard way, I guess, like Village, in that he's really good at just anchoring a point, incredibly tough to remove. I've had some success with Village lately. He seems like he's okay if you bring the right build. Granted, the problem with Village is one of the most broken things that Tzeentch has is Blue Fire. And Blue Fire is far better when you're up in the sky, like aiming downwards. That's one of the big issues for sure. But Talons of Tor Kaleda trying their best, but good archer play here from Kark. He's able to get those over. 1430, not much time left. The Elves are on a desperate hold here in the middle. Those Swordmasters, I think, are broken, and looking at the objectives, it's probably going to flip. Objective 2 is 8.25 for the Vampire Counts. Granted, Objective 1, is that going to get ninja'd? Look at that. The Mage of Life is here. Kark pulled like everything to the middle. Oh my god. Is it going to come down to this haggard mage grabbing the high ground objective? That's going to be absolutely insane. Middle objective flips. Reaver is probably going to go up to the high ground, realizing that there's nothing for them there. The Talons of Tor Kaleda fighting Fellbats. Reaver's trying to clear off the point, and it looks like this objective here. So looking at Objective 3, you can see it does favor the Elves a little bit. There are some undead coming over, some skeleton warriors. Talons of Tor Kaleda do, of course, have 5 capture weight, and bats have no capture weight. Zombies have barely anything. The White King and the Corpse Guard don't have the most at all. So up on the high ground, looks like Hadri's going to be threatening this point. There are going to be some Reavers coming over to try and fend off the Black Knights from getting onto the point. These Swordmasters, if they actually came back, that'd be pretty big. Routing units don't have capture weight unless you're undead, and in which case you do. Like, broken units do have capture weight, which pretty unfair. But Swordmasters of Hoeth are on the run. Definitely should try and get onto the objective. I mean, look at that. The mage is standing there like, come help me, please. I am too weak. Storm Riders are going to be hustling over as well. Very, very close game, man. Right now, the Vampire Counts have a triple cap, and it looks like the Vampire Counts hold on to the side point. They do. They get some skeletons. They get some spears. They're going to be able to hold on to that point. But the Elves do flip the high ground. Oh my god, this is such a close game. As the Storm Riders going to be hustling up, and I think the Storm Riders will win the game. They have, they're too tanky, too much capture weight. They have anti-large, so they can fight off cavalry units. The Swordmasters have come back, so if Hadri's is watching here, he's going to be able to move them in. Emmerich is finally broken. He got about 1,000 value this game. I think Horseric was okay. Maybe he was designed to like hunt down necromancers and things like that. I'm not quite sure about the tech there, but you know, nonetheless, it looks like that is going to be a victory for the High Elves and Hadri's. What a razor close game between these two top players. I believe both of these guys are actually playing in the grand finals coming up at the beginning of December of Total Tavern Season 2. So that'll be really hype. Maybe they'll get a rematch. But yeah, that was a great one. Cool stuff. Silverins were awesome. Swordmasters were probably the MVPs, really. I mean, 1,700, 2,500 on those things. Beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. Really like that. And the Graveguard build was cool. Graveguard kind of got wrecked a little bit. I guess some of them got 1,500 value, but Vlad, he did totally fine. White Kings are just super good. Scab's Wraith, good staying power, really good on a map like ITZA where they can just waddle between objectives. And yeah, this is really interesting. No Crypt Horrors. Like, Kark played a very different game. I think Crypt Horrors, even against Elves, are good to have in reserve, because once their archers are compromised, Crypt Horrors basically counter most of their roster. So, well, with the exception of Lotherns and Silverins, but White Lions, Rangers, Swordmasters, you know, Silverhelms, Dragon Princes will all struggle against Crypt Horrors. So, GG, well played. Great game. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. And we'll see you next time, ladies and gentlemen.